Oil-driven TSX record at 36,458 gives TFSA holders a concrete way to tilt toward energy, while U.S. indices dip. This is Modern Investing Techniques, episode 134. Quick reminder, everything we discuss here is for education and entertainment. The practice investment of the day uses simulated trades with no real money. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice. Always do your own research before putting real money to work. The S&P 500 closed at 7,753, down 0.1%. The NASDAQ finished at 26,605, down 0.3%. The TSX Composite reached a fresh record at 36,458, up 0.2%. Energy names drove the Canadian advance as oil prices climbed, while broader U.S. sentiment remained muted ahead of the July CPI release. That print now sits at the center of expectations for the September FOMC meeting, with most forecasters clustering around a 0.2% core reading. Benchmark comparison data for our simulated portfolio versus the NASDAQ is unavailable in today's feed, so we will track that thread once fresh numbers arrive. The ongoing AI infrastructure build-out continues to surface new data points, and today's $9.1 billion Anthropic Riot deal adds another layer to power demand expectations. Thematic catalyst trading uses a single company-specific development to time an entry while keeping position size modest. Today's Apple glass-centric iPhone redesign for the 2026 anniversary model directly counters earlier cancellation rumors and points to a concrete product cycle in 2027. The new iPhone Pro models, internally known as V73 and V74, are expected to launch next year with glass on both the front and back, curving into the sides of the device with a metal band running through the middle. Canadian investors can screen for similar hardware refresh stories on platforms such as Wealthsimple or Questrade by setting alerts on supplier tickers and checking 20-day average volume before entry. The approach has historically delivered the strongest edge when a fundamental catalyst coincides with sector rotation and above-average volume, as seen in prior AI-related hardware runs. Risk comes from execution delays or macro shocks that override the story, so a same-day volume check above the 20-day average remains essential. Pairing the screen with a 5 to 7% stop below the entry keeps the trade sized for a weekly hold window. The report comes from people familiar with the matter and directly rebuts an analyst claim that the redesign had been cancelled, giving the catalyst a clearer binary character than typical rumor-driven moves. This week's simulated practice investment is a weekly hold on Apple. The catalyst is the Bloomberg-sourced report that Apple is still advancing the glass-centric iPhone redesign for the 20th anniversary model, directly rebutting prior cancellation claims. The technical setup shows the stock sitting above its 50-day moving average on daily charts, with a volume gate requiring the 20-day average to be exceeded on any follow-through day. Risk assessment notes that product delays or broader tech rotation could pressure the name, so the stop sits 6% below entry to cap loss. The target range is plus 4% to plus 8% over the 5-day window if volume confirms the catalyst. The confidence is medium because we have a single clear fundamental catalyst with sector tailwinds, yet we still lack same-day volume spike confirmation. This simulated trade demonstrates how to translate a product cycle headline into a defined entry with explicit risk parameters and a volume gate. Listeners learn to size positions for a full week rather than reacting intraday, building discipline around catalyst validation. This is a simulated trade for educational purposes only. We will track the position through Friday and report the outcome then. The Wealthsimple private shares feature lets accredited Canadian investors buy and hold shares in private companies such as Wealthsimple itself or other venture-backed names directly inside a TFSA. It gives retail users access to pre-IPO liquidity events that were previously limited to institutional or employee pools, with built-in ACB tracking and tax reporting. Access runs through the standard Wealthsimple app under the Private tab for eligible accounts, and the feature functions as both an investment vehicle and a tax-efficient way to participate in Canadian wealth management sector growth. Polymarket lets users trade event contracts on outcomes such as the 47% probability assigned to Strait of Hormuz traffic normalizing by year-end. The tool surfaces crowdsourced probabilities that can be cross-checked against options implied moves or sector ETF flows for macro hedging decisions. Any investor with a crypto wallet can participate, and the 47% figure itself is a live market price that updates continuously, giving Canadian investors a quantifiable probability to compare against their own oil price or tanker exposure assumptions. Anthropic is eyeing a possible September IPO, which would add another high-profile name to the public AI infrastructure theme already driving data center demand. The timing could accelerate capital flows into power and compute suppliers, so Canadian investors holding thematic ETFs that include data center or energy names may see indirect effects through rebalancing flows once the pricing window opens. Action here is to add Anthropic-related supplier or power names to a watch list for post-IPO volume confirmation before any position. Sony collected $356 million of tariff refunds in the second quarter, with roughly 70% of the expected $508 million total arriving between April and June. The remaining $152 million is still expected from the U.S. government, providing a visible line item in the second half cash flow forecast without changing the underlying hardware margin trajectory. Action is to review consumer electronics exposure in any global ETF holdings and consider trimming if tariff refund momentum fades in third quarter prints. NeoBay received a $500,000 non-dilutive Quebec grant for the Crevier niobium and tantalum project under the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forests Mining Research and Innovation Support Program. Because the capital is non-dilutive, it improves project economics without increasing share count, a material detail for early-stage resource names on the venture exchange. Action is to place NBY.V on a speculative watch list and wait for a volume spike above its 20-day average before considering an entry. Primaris REIT declared its August distribution of $0.07333 per unit, annualizing to $0.88 and offering a concrete income option inside registered accounts. For TFSA holders seeking predictable cash flow, the unit structure preserves contribution room efficiency because distributions inside the account are not taxed. Action is to compare the current yield against your TFSA income target and add PMZ.UN to a diversified REIT sleeve only if it fits existing sector limits. Portfolio performance numbers, including win rate and year-to-date alpha versus the NASDAQ, are not available in today's data feed, so we will resume that tracking once the next update arrives. The AI analysis continues to learn from volume confirmation patterns and is adjusting position sizing rules accordingly. Imagine you see the Apple redesign headline at 9:15 a.m. and click Buy on AAPL in your TFSA. Your order fills at $228.40. Yet between the news hit and that fill, the bid-ask spread on AAPL widened from 3 cents to 11 cents in the first 12 minutes as high-frequency desks absorbed the initial flow. What most retail investors miss is that the first 30 minutes after a headline often show the widest spreads and the highest chance of slippage, especially on names already in the news flow. Professionals always cross-check the 15-minute volume bar against the prior 20-day average before committing size. If the bar is still below average, they wait for the next 15-minute print. The concrete misconception to avoid is treating the headline price as the executable price. Instead, place a limit order 0.3 to 0.5% below the last print and let the market come to you once volume confirms the move. In Canada, the same dynamic appears on TSX names when US headlines spill over, except the currency conversion layer can add another 5 to 10 basis points of effective spread during the first volatile minutes. The key discipline is to treat the first 15-minute bar as a filter rather than an entry signal, preserving the ability to size the position correctly once liquidity normalizes. Before we wrap, open your brokerage screener this weekend, set a filter for TSX energy names trading above their 50-day moving average with volume at least 1.2 times the 20-day average, and flag the top 3 for Friday's close review. Tomorrow we will check whether the Apple catalyst produces the expected volume confirmation and update the simulated hold accordingly. That's modern investing techniques for today. If you found this useful, share it with a fellow investor and subscribe wherever you listen. Check the resources page for tools and platforms we discussed. We're back tomorrow. Keep learning, keep investing. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at NARA Network. Links in the show notes. Quick tip from the network. Try the Do Positive Pod next. Good news in science and tech, plus one concrete action you can take. Every NARA Network show is free at naranetwork.com. And on the website, every episode's visuals live in our free image gallery at naranetwork.com gallery. Royalty free under Creative Commons. Download with attribution. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.
Do you ever wonder where we go after this? Are you high right now? Do you ever get nervous? Do you ever stay awake, counting sheep like all the time? What's your life like? What's your purpose? When's your birthday? What's your sign? Are you down right now? Are you stuck up in the past? Are you still thinking about all the times that you didn't laugh?